My wife cheated on me with our marriage counselor, then manipulated me into signing over $200, $0 in our Florida property in her name, only to find out she's been secretly planning to divorce me and keep everything, including the $350, $0 retirement fund, while I was blind to her lies. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here telling a story about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be nothing but a manipulative cheat, but here I am. It all started with what I thought was a normal, happy marriage. We had our issues, sure, who does? But I believed Lisa loved me, and honestly, I thought we were in it together for the long haul. She seemed to be the perfect wife, sweet, attractive, successful in her career, and always there when I needed her. Or so I thought. Things started feeling a little off about 6 months ago. Small stuff at first. She was more secretive with her phone, always locking it when she was in the bathroom or in another room. She'd get defensive if I asked to see her messages, brush me off with some excuse about being private. I brushed it aside, thinking maybe she was just stressed with work or worried about something. We had our usual arguments, but nothing that screamed cheater, right? I mean, she was still affectionate, still told me she loved me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then I noticed her spending more time with our marriage counselor doctor. She'd come home from sessions looking more tense than usual, often avoiding eye contact or giving me vague answers when I asked what they discussed. She'd say things like, "Just working on stuff," or "It's private," and I'd nod along, trying not to push. But deep down, I was starting to feel suspicious. What finally broke the dam was a random night when I was working late. I decided to check our bank account, nothing unusual, just routine. But then I saw a strange withdrawal. It was for a substantial amount, around $50, $0, taken out of our joint account and transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I immediately felt my stomach drop. Why would Lisa do that? I looked closer. The account was in her name alone, and the transfer was labeled legal settlement, which made no sense because we weren't involved in any legal matters. That's when I decided to dig deeper. I pulled up our property records, and that's when I saw it. She transferred our Florida house, the one we bought 5 years ago, into her name alone. No warning, no discussion, just a quick, sneaky transfer. I started to piece it together. She was planning something, and I was just blind to it. I confronted her the next day. I asked her about the money, about the house. She looked at me with that icy, bitchy smile and said, "Oh, you're overreacting, honey. It's just a legal thing you wouldn't understand." But I knew better. I knew she was lying. And the worst part, she was so damn convincing, so manipulative, I started questioning if I was losing my mind. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The secret phone, the evasiveness, her cold reactions. Then it hit me, she'd been having an affair. I found messages on her phone, explicit conversations with our marriage counselor, doctor. They'd been sleeping together for months. The counselor, a guy I trusted, was screwing my wife and helping her plan her escape from our marriage, all while pretending to be helping us fix things. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife had lied to my face, manipulated me into signing over our property, and was planning to leave me with nothing: our house, our retirement fund, everything she thought I wouldn't notice. The betrayal was staggering. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I thought I knew Lisa. Turns out I never really knew her at all. After I found those messages, everything changed. My stomach was in knots, my mind racing. I couldn't believe Lisa was capable of this level of deception. She had been sneaking around behind my back, lying to my face every time she said she loved me. And the worst part, she was actively plotting to take everything from me: our house, our savings, the future we'd built together. It was like waking up in a nightmare, but I knew I couldn't just sit there devastated. I had to act. The first thing I did was try to process what I'd uncovered. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone, trying to think clearly. My mind kept flashing back to all the little clues I'd ignored: her evasiveness, her secretive calls, her sudden interest in the lawyer's office. It all clicked into place now. She was planning her escape, and I was her pawn. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this after everything we'd been through? I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with more evidence. I decided to go to her phone to see if I could find even more proof. I needed to know if she'd been lying about anything else. When I grabbed her phone, she was in the kitchen pretending to be busy with dinner. I acted casual, but inside I was boiling. I unlocked her phone and there it was. More messages, more lies, explicit talks with doctor, plans to meet up again soon, and even hints about how she'd keep me distracted while she finalized everything. I was furious. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so trusting. I felt like a fool. But the worst part was realizing she'd been manipulating me this whole time, convincing me to sign over our property, making me think everything was fine. She played me like a damn fiddle. I needed a plan. I knew I couldn't just confront her again and hope she'd tell the truth. I had to be smart. I started by calling my lawyer, a guy I'd trusted for years, and told him everything. I wanted to know my legal options. I also hired a private investigator to dig into her activities, to confirm what I'd already suspected, that she was planning to divorce me, take the house, the retirement fund, and leave me with nothing. In the meantime, I started gathering all the evidence I could find, screenshots of her messages, bank records, property deeds. I didn't want to be caught off guard again. I was determined to fight for what was rightfully mine. I also started subtly probing her about her plans, asking questions about her future, about the house, about money. She played it cool, acting innocent, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She was nervous, trying to cover her tracks. Then one night she slipped up. I caught her in a lie about where she was going after work. She said she was meeting a friend, but I found her at a hotel with doctor. That was it. I had enough. I stormed into the hotel room and confronted them both. Lisa's face went pale, and she started crying, claiming I was overreacting, that I didn't understand. Doctor looked guilty as hell, stammering about misunderstandings and business meetings. But I knew better. They'd been screwing each other behind my back, planning how to leave me high and dry. That night, after kicking her out of the house, I sat alone in my study, feeling a mix of anger, betrayal, and despair. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't going down without a fight. I realized she'd been manipulating me from the start, lying about everything, even about her feelings. She played the victim, but in reality she was the mastermind behind this entire scheme. I had to take control of my life again. I decided then and there that I'd fight for my rights, for my money, and for whatever was left of the life I thought I knew. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, gathering evidence, and trying to keep my head straight. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to stop her from pulling more tricks. Lisa was clearly desperate to finalize her plans. She was trying to sell the house, transfer more money, and even had her lawyer working overtime to get everything in her favor. I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to outsmart her at her own game. I met with a lawyer who specialized in family law and property disputes. His name was Mark, and he was sharp. I laid out everything I knew: the secret transfer of the house into her name, the suspicious withdrawals, the explicit messages, the hotel rendezvous with doctor. Mark listened carefully, took notes, and then told me that I had a solid case to challenge her on the property transfer and the financial schemes she was pulling. He explained I could file for an emergency injunction to freeze her assets and prevent her from selling or transferring anything else. That was a huge relief, but I knew Lisa wouldn't go down without a fight. She was a bitchy, manipulative woman when cornered. I had to be prepared for her to go nuclear. Meanwhile, I kept digging. The private investigator confirmed my suspicions. Lisa and Doctor had been planning this for months. They'd even opened a secret bank account together, and she'd been funneling money into it, planning to vanish with everything. One afternoon, I got a call from my lawyer. We had enough to file an official complaint. I remember sitting in my living room, staring at the documents, feeling a strange mix of anger and relief. At least now I had some control. I also hired a forensic accountant to go through our financials. What I discovered made my blood boil. Lisa had drained our retirement account, about $350 over the past year, moving it into her secret accounts. She'd been planning this for a long time, and I was just too blind to see it. That was when I decided I had to confront her again, but this time with everything laid out on the table. I sent her a text that night. "We need to talk, face to face. Now." She responded with her usual bitchy attitude, trying to deny everything, claiming I was paranoid and jealous. But I knew better. I had proof now. I told her I knew about the affair, the money, the house. Everything. Her face twisted into one of rage, but I didn't back down. I knew she was trying to manipulate me, but I was done playing her game. The next day she came home looking furious. She tried to act innocent, but I didn't buy it. I laid out the evidence, screenshots, bank statements, the property deeds, and told her I was filing for divorce and legal action to get back what she stole. Her eyes flashed with fury. She screamed, called me all kinds of names, and tried to manipulate her way out of it, but I was done listening. I told her she'd be held accountable for her lies and betrayal. The most shocking part: she admitted finally that she'd been planning to leave me for months. She said she was tired of pretending, tired of being trapped, and that she deserved more than a boring life with me. She said she was going to take the house, the money, everything, and leave me with nothing. That was the moment I realized she'd been planning her escape all along, even using me to sign over property that she now intended to keep. But I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. I had the evidence, I had the law on my side, and I was prepared to fight for what was mine. I told her she could go ahead and try, she'd face the consequences, and I'd make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal. I felt a strange sense of calm amidst the chaos. This was war, and I was ready for it. All I wanted now was to reclaim my life from her, to stop her from messing me over any further. I knew the battle wasn't over, but I also knew I had the upper hand. The legal battle that followed was a nightmare, but I knew I had to see it through. Lisa, true to her bitchy, manipulative nature, tried every trick she knew to spin the story, to make herself look like the victim. She hired her own lawyer, some slick, slimy guy who kept pushing her version of events, claiming I was paranoid, that she was just trying to protect her interests. But I had the evidence, and I made sure everyone knew it. We filed for the injunction to freeze her assets, and the court granted it within days. That was a huge win, even if it just delayed her plans. She was furious, banging on her lawyer's desk, screaming that I was trying to ruin her. But she couldn't deny the truth anymore. The bank statements, the property deeds, the messages, they all painted a clear picture. She had been planning this for months, secretly siphoning money, lying to my face, and messing with my head. Meanwhile, I kept digging into her finances. The forensic accountant uncovered even more. Lisa had transferred over $200, $0 of our Florida property into her name, without telling me. She also drained the retirement fund $350, just like I suspected. She had plans to disappear with everything, to start fresh somewhere else, leaving me with nothing. I felt sick thinking about how she'd manipulated me into signing over the house, all while secretly planning her escape. One day, I confronted her again. I called her out in front of her lawyer, with copies of all the evidence laid out on the table. I told her I wasn't going to let her get away with this. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, trying to act innocent, but I saw through her. She snapped at me, calling me jealous and insecure, but I wasn't about to let her gaslight me anymore. I told her I was going to fight for my rights, for my money, and for the house that was rightfully ours. Then she dropped a bomb. She accused me of being controlling, of holding her back, and said she needed more than this boring marriage. She claimed she'd always been unhappy, that she'd deserve better. That's when I realized her plan was bigger than just cheating. She wanted out, and she'd used me as her pawn. She'd been planning her divorce for months, orchestrating her escape, and I was just too blind to see it. The final straw came when I found out she'd been seeing Doctor behind my back, even after I thought they'd been caught. She kept up the affair, even lying about it, all while trying to finalize her plans to leave me with nothing. That was the moment I decided enough was enough. I filed for divorce immediately, demanding full custody of our assets, the house, and the retirement fund. Her lawyer tried to drag things out, but I was determined. I'd been betrayed, manipulated, and used. But I wasn't going to let her walk away scot-free. In the end, I realized how much I'd trusted her, how much I'd believed in us. But Lisa proved she was nothing but a bitchy, manipulative woman who'd do anything for money and freedom. I learned a hard lesson about trust, about watching the signs, and about never letting yourself be blind to the truth. I may have lost a lot, but I gained clarity. And now I'm focused on rebuilding my life, more cautious, more aware, and definitely more skeptical of the next woman who tries to play me for a fool. The divorce process was a long, draining ordeal, but I refused to let Lisa win completely. She tried to drag things out, filing false accusations, claiming I was abusive, that I was trying to sabotage her new life. She even went as far as to accuse me of financial abuse, which was laughable considering how much she'd stolen from me. But I stayed calm, let my lawyer handle the legal side, and kept gathering evidence to counter her lies. One thing that really stuck with me was how she'd manipulated the entire situation. She'd pretend to be the victim, crying about how I was controlling her or how she just wanted freedom from a boring marriage. But I knew better. She was just trying to cover her tracks, to make herself look innocent while she lined up her next move. I found out she'd been secretly meeting with a divorce lawyer months before she even told me she was unhappy. She planned everything from the start. The real shocker came when I finally got access to her phone records. She'd been talking to Doctor constantly, hours every week. They'd even set up a secret email account to communicate directly, avoiding my eyes entirely. It was clear she'd been using him not just as a counselor but as her partner in crime. And she'd been lying to me about everything, her feelings, her plans, even her fidelity. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind to her lies for so long. I also discovered she'd been secretly withdrawing money from our joint account, funneling it into her own accounts, and even transferring some of our property assets into her name alone. She'd been planning her escape for months, and I was just a pawn in her game. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we built, all for her greed and selfishness? Throughout all this, I felt a lot of emotions: anger, sadness, frustration. But mostly I felt betrayed. I had loved her, trusted her, and she'd used me. I was furious at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. But I also knew I had to do what was right, to fight for my rights, for my money, and for my dignity. In the court hearings, I laid everything out. I presented all the evidence: the bank statements, the property deeds, the messages, the recordings I secretly made of her conversations. She looked like a cornered animal trying to deny everything, but her lies crumbled under the weight of the truth. The judge ordered her to stop transferring assets, froze her accounts, and set a timetable for the division of property and retirement funds. It was a victory, but it didn't erase the pain. I knew Lisa wasn't done trying to manipulate her way out. She kept trying to paint herself as the victim, but I refused to be fooled anymore. I realized that her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations, they all stemmed from her greed and her need for control. I had to accept that I was better off without her, even if it hurt like hell to admit it. Now, I'm slowly rebuilding. I've started therapy to heal from the betrayal, and I'm focusing on my future. I don't trust easily anymore, but I'm learning to be cautious. I've also become more aware of the warning signs, how a seemingly perfect wife can hide a manipulative, selfish side. If there's one thing I want other guys to take from this, it's this: don't ignore the red flags. Trust your instincts, keep a close eye on your finances, and never let yourself be blinded by love. Because once you're betrayed like this, it's a long road back to normal. But I'm getting there. Slowly but surely. Looking back now, I realize how much I learned from all of this, though I wish I hadn't had to go through it at all. Lisa's betrayal cut deep, not just because of the money or the house, but because it shattered my sense of trust in someone I loved. It's a brutal lesson that even the people closest to you can hide a darker side, one driven by greed, manipulation, and selfishness. I thought I knew her, thought I knew us, but she was always planning her escape, using her charm and lies to keep me blind to what was really happening. Now I'm more cautious. I check bank statements regularly, keep a close eye on property records, and don't let anyone get too close without knowing their true intentions. I've learned to trust my gut more than ever, and I've also learned to forgive myself for not seeing the signs sooner. It's easy to blame yourself when someone you love turns out to be so different from what you believed. But ultimately, I know I did everything I could. Sometimes, people just aren't who they pretend to be. The hardest part is accepting that I lost years of my life to her lies, but I also know that I'm stronger now. I've got a clearer picture of what I want and what I don't want in a relationship. I refuse to be naive again. I'll never let anyone manipulate me like that, not again. It's a tough lesson, but it's one that made me realize I have to be vigilant, especially when it comes to money and trust. To the guys out there who might be going through something similar, watch your back. Pay attention to the little things: secretive behavior, evasiveness, unexplained withdrawals, and sudden changes in attitude. Don't let anyone manipulate you into signing over your assets or making decisions you're not comfortable with. Trust your instincts and don't be afraid to dig deeper if something feels off. Because once the trust is broken, rebuilding is possible but painful. I can finally say I'm starting over. I've got my house back in order, my finances secured, and most importantly, my dignity restored. I don't harbor hatred for Lisa anymore. I just feel sorry for her. She's the one who lost her integrity, not me. I've learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on, stronger and wiser than before. This whole experience has been a brutal wake-up call, but it's also been a catalyst for growth. I know now that I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, things I won't settle for anymore. And if I've learned anything, it's that no amount of money or material possessions can replace the peace of mind that comes from knowing you're with someone who truly cares. Moving forward, I'll keep that lesson close. Because at the end of the day, the most valuable thing I have is myself, and I won't let anyone take that away again.